हिमांशु मेरे को रिकॉर्डिंग शुरू नमस्कार सारनी हिमांशु आज this is our second session for the Kashmir Shaivism series. We have about 7 of these going on. It's a bi-weekly series, but we are going to skip some long weekends, so it's not completely bi-weekly. Some weekends it'll be 3 weeks gap because of the long weekend. We don't want to bother with the long weekend. Once again, this series is brought to you with the efforts of the Kashmir Heritage Preservation Committee of KOA. Vijay Dhar is the lead for our Kashmir Shaivism series, and I will hand it over to you, Vijay. Please get started.
Okay, thank you, Dilip ji. Namaskar to everyone. We were very encouraged to see the participation last week, so thanks for that. And what we decided after last week's session was that there were some good questions, not only during the session but also afterwards. In the offline chats and stuff, there were some good questions that were being asked. So we tried to, or we decided to set up some kind of a FAQ, frequently asked questions, which we will maintain as we go. And based on that, I have already set up a meeting with Rakesh Ji Cole, who has a much better network than I have about, with Kashmir Shaivism scholars and acharyas. So we can devise some kind of a curriculum for deeper dives in future. So I just wanted to give you that update. And today we will spend a little bit more time on some of those FAQs. And I want to make sure that the primary purpose of this webinar series is not compromised. And that primary purpose is to show the relevance for today and tomorrow. It's not really about learning about our history. I mean, learning about our history is important, but there is a lot more motivation to think about all of this if it is relevant for today and tomorrow. That's why I wanted to kind of make sure that that aspect of it is comprehended well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. But before I do that, maybe what I want to say is that, like most people, most Kashmiri Pandits, I was also kind of just doing rituals and all throughout my childhood and even adulthood. Kashmiri puja and all that. And I used to tell my mom, I said that last week, and maybe some people were not there. I used to tell my mom that, hey, we are all living in dark ages, and all of this does not have any relevance. So why are we doing this? Let's get out of it. So, but I only started learning about this, the relevance of this, in the last 10 years or 8 years or something. And when my mom passed away in 2021, one big thing that I said after her death was basically that, in spite of all the 700 years of suppression, women of Kashmir kept that tradition alive. In spite of all the naysayers, in spite of all the generational gaps and all that stuff, they kept their faith and they kept it alive. So we had to be indebted to our ancestors, and we'll talk more about that in one of the, I think, part 3 or part 4 of how this miracle happened. We had to thank our ancestors for keeping it alive. So with that, I want to go ahead and share my screen. And sorry, I'll go back to my beginning. So I will show you the questions that I captured last time. And in session 2, what we are going to do is FAQ from the session 1. And then I'm going to, this session, I'm going to, after the FAQs from last session, I'm going to, it's basically an appetizer for all of you to show that this Kashmir Shaivism is not dead in Kashmir. Today also Kashmir Shaivism is alive, but it's in a very pathetic kind of state. And I want to show you some pictures and clips and stories from my October 2023 retreat to Kashmir. It was a Kashmir Shaivism retreat. And I want to kind of share that to show that, and also in that context, share some rich history and current state of affairs at the heritage sites in Kashmir. And as I said earlier, part two is going to be about the historical perspective of Kashmir Shaivism, how it grew, and how it reached its peak and then went down. I'm going to be after that. I'm going to be talking about the miracle of survival, which is a miracle, really, and I want to share that. And then we'll go over some key concepts of Kashmir Shaivism. Obviously, this is not going to be very much in depth, but I'll try to do some justice to it. And we will be, as I said earlier, we will be having deeper dives into specific concepts, depending on what is most relevant for present and future. With Rakesh ji, I set up a meeting with him already for uh, next month. And then lastly, how we are going to be shaping the future, and then we'll see an experiential or quasi-experimental experiential session that will be at the end. So the questions that I got asked last time were actually good ones, and this whole experience is educational for me also, because it's helping me to reflect on some of the things. As I said last time, I'm a beginner myself, so, but these questions are helping me to kind of reflect on things and answer questions. And so the first question was, it's not clear what role Kashmir Shaivism can play in transforming to the more sustainable donut economy that I shared last time. And I'm going to be to answer this, I'm going to be really going through quickly some of that content and additional content that I actually shared with you through the WhatsApp channel, but I'm going to go through some of that. Then there were some questions about examples of other indigenous wisdom traditions besides Kashmir Shaivism that I was thinking about, and I'll answer that. There was a question about Roger Penrose, because I talked about the Nobel Prize in 2020 uh, to Roger Penrose, and how Stephen Hawking is kind of related to him. So I'm going to answer that. And then there was a question about how strong is the role of Shakti, the feminine, divine feminine, in Kashmir Shaivism versus the other traditions. And that is going to be part of part three, which I'll answer. And then why is Kashmir Shaivism called Kashmiri Shaivism? And I'll answer that also. I think I answered it, but I'm going to I have a file for that. And then there was some question about book recommendations. So let me first answer the first question about the relevance, or how this is going to help in transforming to the more sustainable donut economy. So, like I said last time, I want to quickly say that this uh, April 2020, which was 50th Earth Day issue, basically talked about how the 100th Earth Day is going to look like. And looking at the present trend, if you don't, most people are kind of saying right now that we are not meeting the goals that we have set ourselves for turning around the fate of this planet, which is very dark right now. 2070 is not going to be very optimistic. It's going to be a pessimistic view, in fact. And this is the trend right now. But um, one second. But um, so this would be basically would have damaged the planet by 103rd day. But there is an optimistic view also, and that optimistic view does not look like very likely at this time, based on this National Geographic issue. But because we have some of the leanings in this Kashmir Shaivism, I see that there is a proof of concept which is existing right now for the ingredients which are needed for the optimistic view. All the technology ingredients are there, and we have to make sure that uh, there is at a global stage there is collaboration across networks to adopt and scale these new approaches and new innovations to realize that optimistic view. I'm talking about innovations in technology, but also innovations in our approach, human approach. And that's where the Kashmir Shaivism thing comes in. So I will spend a little more time in answering that question about why Kashmir Shaivism particularly is relevant. So I also showed last time about the donut economy, where we are breaching the nature's ecological ceiling, which is this part of the donut, and because of climate, biodiversity, land conversion, nitrogen phosphate loading, because of all the use of fertilizers and stuff. And then we're also breaching the social foundation, where because of all the injustices that have been done in the last 200 years, gender and social inequity, health, water, housing, and all that. We talked about all that, and this model of donut economy is actually gaining uh, adherence since 2018, when this was actually proposed. And in last month's March 2024 issue of Scientific American is actually building on this, and actually doing more research on some of these social foundations and ecological ceilings, quantitative research on where should the ceiling be, where should the foundation be, and when can we say that we have breached this, and so on. So based on all of that work, there is this new hope that there is a possibility of this upward spiral for regeneration before the 2070, which is the 100th Earth Day. And this will have to be through creativity, purpose, belonging, participation, and in short, it's common good versus capitalistic greed. What has happened in the last 200 years through this, because of this colonialism, is capitalistic greed has actually creeped in too much. And that's what has damaged the planet, and that's what has uh, damaged even society in general. So, Uh, so I actually showed last time that there is a technology element to all of this. The optimistic view. There is a organizational element about the public-private partnership, the governments and the uh, private companies and the industry working together to achieve a mission, just like the moon mission was achieved in the 60s with that Apollo program and stuff. Just like that, there's an organizational element in this, where mission economies are being pursued. But the most crucial part of this is human society itself. And that's where we need some kind of a metamorphosis in the humanity itself, where we are rediscovering the divinity in us. And that divinity in us is where the Kashmir Shaivism also comes in. And the particularly, what was happening in the 20th, 19th and 20th century, when all this capitalist colonialism was happening, was we had this economy was centered on that greed. There was self-promotion, consumption, and dumping, and exploitation, and short-term returns. Whereas in the 21st century, there is a need for wisdom, where indigenous wisdom really is kind of showing its uh, relevance again. And we are talking about mission economy rather than capitalist economy. We are talking about common good rather than self-promotion, circularity and zero waste instead of dumping, and so on. So all of this is requiring the 21st century challenges to be met with 21st century paradigms, policies, and tools. This is what Madeleine Albright said in 2017. So we need some different thinking, different approach. And I shared right after the last session, I shared this Kashmir Shaivism role about rethinking humanity. I sent that video, and from 8 minutes onwards, for 2 or 3 minutes, there was specific discussion about Kashmir Shaivism in this. This was again between Tony Seba, who proposed or presented this donut economy, or discussed it more, and I shared that file with you earlier. And he is partnering with somebody from UK, James Arbib, and they were in conversation with Deepak Chopra. And I shared that thing with you, and the main thing that was there in those 2 or 3 minutes in the beginning, and then also towards the end, was that consciousness, according to Kashmiri Shaivism, which was actually built on the foundation of Vedanta, it describes the pure consciousness in very unique ways. It basically says that everything that happens, whether it's science or math or all this discovery and inventions and so on, all of this happens in consciousness. People are able to do all of this because people are conscious, and that consciousness is the real thing. That's the fundamental reality. And everything happens, science, technology, emotions, perceptions, art, everything happens in it. And this supreme consciousness or pure consciousness is the realm of infinite possibilities to imagine and realize the optimistic view of 2070. So this 2070, whatever we are thinking about, the optimistic view, which seems to be impossible, is actually possible because of the theory of pure consciousness having infinite possibilities. We're going to be discussing a lot more of this in part 3, where we're going to go through the individual concepts of Kashmiri Shaivism. But this is basically, I'm sharing why it's relevant. And then the other thing about this pure consciousness is that it's pure unpredictability and creativity. So there's a total independence and swatantriya, the concept of swatantriya, which is very inherent in Kashmiri Shaivism, again as against or versus the other traditions. So this pure unpredictability and creativity is also something that actually can help us achieve those infinite possibilities that we need for making that optimistic view. And all manifestations are connected and inseparable, driving quest for common good versus greed. So you see, in our own body, there's never a competition between brain and intestine and right hand and left hand. All of it is interconnected, and they all work towards the common good of the body. The same thing is actually true for the entire universe and the world around us. Uh, we are connected with everybody else and everything else. And this 2022 Nobel Prize that for physics was really about that connectedness and that entanglement. Entanglement was what that was about. So everything is entangled. There is no, the speed of light is not a limitation. Everything is entangled. So this is all there in Kashmiri Shaivism. And also in Kashmiri Shaivism is attention and intention. Wherever we put attention and intention, those possibilities in a meditative way can be achieved. And even if those are miraculous targets where we can't think, think about today, we're able to see each other through, WhatsApp video. And this is something that we could never imagine. These are miraculous kind of targets that we never imagined. And those miraculous targets is what we need to really realize that optimistic view of 2070. And all of that can be done because of this pure consciousness having all this infinite possibility, creativity, and all that stuff. So that's why it is important. And the good thing about Kashmir Shaivism is that it gives you prescriptions, it gives you means, upayas, or in Kashmiri we say vapai, to realize that oneness and manifest those breakthroughs. That's what the beauty of Kashmir Shaivism is. It has got all of those vapais. And when you go through in the part 3, when we go through the models of Kashmir Shaivism, we'll see that it's got 36 tattvas, which are physical tattvas, and then there are 11 tattvas, which are transcendental tattvas, that we cannot really realize. We don't even appreciate those additional tattvas in the normal day-to-day living. But there are models for this, and there are means or vapais to get to that unity, where those 11 transcendental tattvas can also be experienced. And because of that experience, that infinite possibilities can be achieved. That's the reason why I think that we particularly Kashmiris should pay attention, because the world is paying attention to it right now. Okay, so this transcendental world is really, you can think about it in quantum mechanics. We have these imaginary numbers in equations, in quantum mechanics. Without those imaginary numbers, quantum physics falls apart without those imaginary numbers. This is from one of these National Geographic or something that I got. So we are accepting all of those transcendental kind of concepts in mathematics and physics, and without that we are not able to realize the truth. So Newtonian physics did not depend on these imaginary numbers, but quantum physics does, and because quantum physics is closer to the transcendental kind of a realm. So the Kashmir Shaivism with those 25 plus 11 tattvas actually gives us model for that. And then we have the means to really get into that transcendental world and realize those additional powers or siddhis. And anyway, the bottom line is that there is an old way. For 200 years, we have been kind of practicing the old ways of colonial kind of a approach, and that old story has to be destroyed. And the destruction and creation are very important concepts in Kashmir Shaivism, and that will be some of the things that we'll be covering in part 3. And we have to create a new story in the age of this freedom, swatantriya. So all of these terms, destruction, creation, swatantriya, they're all inherent foundations of Kashmir Shaivism, which are quite unique to Kashmir Shaivism. And then the Shaktis, the temple of all Shaktis, which is called our human body. Our human body has got all of these chakras and Shaktis. Those concepts will also be introduced in that section. And then all of these Shaktis are correlated within our body and with the rest of the world. So this correlation is also something that we are going to be emphasizing and showing. And all of these concepts, destruction of the old story, creation of the new story in the age of freedom, using temple of all Shaktis called the human body, correlated with and with all within and with all of Prakriti outside. So this is the basic foundation of why we think that this optimistic view of 2070 can be realized using the concept of Kashmir Shaivism. And lots of people in the world have realized that, but we want to make sure that Kashmiris also realize it and use that to really help regenerate our disintegrated society, which has been scattered all around the globe. So this was I hope obviously this will become more clear when we go through those parts 3 and 4 and all. But right now, this is what I wanted to kind of emphasize again, that this is the relevance is for tomorrow, not about the past. And there are many dimensions to this, cultural, social. It's not only technology or that whatever is going to come out of this wisdom is going to be cultural, political, economical, ecological, and social. All of these vectors are going to be addressed in this. And this is again from June 2021 issue of Scientific American from Ashish Kothari. I did not get a chance to really show this slide earlier, but these people, he actually Ashish Kothari actually worked with lots of different indigenous people across the world, and they came up with this. They actually got Equator Award, which is a prestigious United Nations award. Actually, Dalits and Adivasi women actually played a key role in this whole concept. And there's a good article in this Scientific American issue, which you can refer to. Okay, so that was this. And also last, I think January 2024, which is just a few months ago, there was a discussion between Fareed Zakaria on his GPS on Sunday and he was in Davos at World Economic Forum, and he was having a discussion with Jane Goodall, who is the chimp lady who spent her whole life in Africa and with the chimpanzees. And she, in that 2-minute kind of talk, they were talking about, she was saying that, we have to rethink economy. I was just telling you on the previous slide, the economy and everything has to change. There is enough for human need, but not for human greed. Because if we have to address human greed, There's not enough, and we're going to destroy the planet. And there's a scientific proof, according to Jain, that we need spiritual relationship with the natural world, both at physical and mental level. So mental is transcendental kind of level. We need that connection. And in Kashmir, when we do Shivratri Puja at the conclusion of this, and by the way, this is actually something that was published last month, right after Shivratri. Uh, there's a lady in JNU who kind of published this article about Shivratri, and the last part of the Shivratri Puja is really about this, Vishwa Deva Puja, where we actually talk about all of this nature, you know, preserving and nourishing every creation of the blissful and compassionate Swachandra Bhairava and Bhairavi, who are popularly called Shiva and Shakti. So it's all about this whole creation where there's nature and all. So I want to actually talk about. Let me kind of maybe not spend too much time on this, but I'll say that recently when I had gone to Kashmir on that trip, uh, we had this lots of people there, and I actually met people in that retreat who were the next week they were actually going to COP28 in Dubai, and they were she was, I mean, this person I kind of highlighted here, she is actually working with congressmen here in US. She was coming back from Kashmir and meeting all of them and then going to Dubai. So these are all very powerful people who are seeing the wisdom in Kashmir, and she was in Kashmir for this purpose. And I just wanted to kind of refer to that also. Um, so I think I just went through that last time. So that was one. The other thing was there were questions about examples of other indigenous wisdoms, traditions besides Kashmir Shaivism. And the last time I talked about some of the work that has been done. In India, you may have heard about Chipko movement, and then in recent years, Energy Swaraj. All of these are initiatives that are going on now, and these are all indigenous wisdom based ideas. And but most what I kind of tried to say last time was that most of the indigenous wisdom has been wiped out across the globe, and it's miraculously survived in Kashmir. And we'll have a separate session on what that miracle is. But because it has miraculously survived, it behoves on us to really make sure that we carry it forward. And also there are there was I referred to this article in National Geographic about de-extinction of indigenous wisdom is gaining ground in global north, which is, in Australia and New Zealand, there has been recent legislation where they are given this wisdom is being given a lot more representation and emphasis. And in Canada and US, which the indigenous people call Turtle Island, Canada and US is actually they call it Turtle Island. They have also done some fantastic work in the last few years where they have actually invoked their wisdom, their traditions, and they have tried to make changes, make difference. So I particularly want to say about in northern Oregon, northern California and southern Oregon area, there was a big dam that was constructed on Klamath River. This was by one of these billionaires, whose name I always forget. It's always on the tip of my tongue, but then I forget it when I have to say it. But he had built this huge dam, and because of that, the whole salmon ecosystem was destroyed. And these tribes from there, they went and they basically kind of invoked their rights and fought for their for their rights, and they were able to impress upon Warren Buffett is the name I was talking about. Warren Buffett finally listened to them, and he actually deconstructed that dam, and that whole ecosystem in Northern California, Southern Oregon is being restored now because they deconstructed the dam because these people were they lost their whole uh, history and their whole ecosystem. So anyway, so lots of these things are happening in the US. And uh, next I want to actually share with you this Greg Braden, who is a reputed problem solver for Fortune 500 companies and 5 times New York Times best-selling author. Uh, he shapes emerging paradigms, bridging science, social policy, and human potential. So he told this story in 1990 from a native from one of the pueblos in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. So this is a Native American, of course, who's talking about this story, saying a long time. I want to read this because this actually resonates so much with our Kashmir Shaivism thing. A long time ago, the people of the earth remembered who they were, and they lived much closer to earth. They were much happier, of course. Something happened, and people of earth began to forget who they are. But they so longed for the deep connection that they had between themselves and the forces of nature and the cosmos and the earth under their feet. They so longed for that connection that they began to build in the world outside of them reminders of what that connection meant in the world inside of them. We live in that world today. This is 1990, this Native American saying. We long for that connection. We miss out. We miss our true potential. We will keep building stuff. We'll clutter our world with great gadgets and machines and devices that continue to mimic and reflect back to us who we are. Because after all, he's basically saying all his gadgets and all is all coming out of our pure consciousness. And that's the true potential that we have, and we have forgotten that, and we are cluttering ourselves. Um, until one day we wake up and we say, oh my God, that is us. And then we will let the external technology go because we would have remembered and waken up to our internal technology. World becomes more sophisticated because we have awakened, and yet everything looks much simpler because the external technology clutter goes away. So we are beginning to come back to ourselves and to understand who we are and finding our pathway to our divinity. So this is what I wanted to say, that this is the indigenous wisdom that is there in America, you know, and this is why it is resonating across the globe. Now, this is coming from indigenous wisdom in America. Yesterday, or no, 2 days back, because there's a San Francisco climate week going on, which just concluded yesterday. I was at this, some events, and I was listening to somebody from Kenya, Phyllis Omido, and Juan Pablo from Chile, and they were actually saying all this. I actually had a chat with them after the session was over, and they were saying all this, that this we have to wake up, and otherwise they are actually they're saying that we are on the path to the pessimistic view, and if we don't go back to our wisdom, we are going to lose it. Okay, so that was that. I hope, I spend more time in answering that question, but I hope this is useful, because the main reason why I wanted to do this was to show the relevance for the future. And anyway, so let me just go back. So I talked about how Kashmir Shaivism can play a transforming role, and then give examples of other indigenous wisdom traditions besides Kashmir Shaivism. I try to share that. And then why is Kashmir Shaivism called Kashmiri Shaivism? So I said that actually Kashmiri is not the right word. It's a typo. Most people are calling it Kashmir Shaivism, not Kashmiri Shaivism. And then 4 out of 9 schools of Tantra, Kashmiri Shaiva Tantra, that evolved in Kashmir are real Kashmir Shaivism. Okay, many people prefer to call this Shaiva Tantra rather than Kashmir Shaivism, uh, because they are, when they're looking at the broader philosophy and not just those 4 schools, they want to call it Shaiva Tantra. So last time there was also a question about Roger Penrose, and I kind of provided these links here, which I'm going to share in the next few days in a Word document like I did last time. I don't know, Dilip, were we able to share that Word document which had all the links?
Yes, we
I think we
did.
did share that. Yeah, we did
I
share
was
that.
on WhatsApp.
So the answer is really that, yeah, Roger Penrose and Stephen Hawking actually worked together. And when you know uh, uh, there's a mind over matter, Stephen Hawking actually he gave an obituary when Roger by Roger Penrose gave an obituary to Stephen Hawking when he passed away. And there is also a Penrose Hawking singularity theorem. So I just did some looking into that, and I found that there was a connection. In fact, I also wanted to share that when I was at Intel for 27 years. At Intel, as Stephen Hawking was actually losing his physical abilities one by one, and he was at one point completely crippled, and he could not speak, he could not say anything. But Intel had a group headed by a very senior manager whose job was just to make sure that we are able to hear what he wants to say. And he couldn't speak, he couldn't even move his fingers, he couldn't do anything. In the beginning, he was able to use his fingers on a laptop or on some kind of a mouse to do it, a very special mouse. But Intel kept on improving their technology to be able to hear him. And at one point, they could only get signals from his twitch of his lips. So I wanted to actually kind of reflect back on that and see that in spite of all those limitations that he had, his pure consciousness was alive and kicking. And he was one with that pure consciousness, and he was able to create theories, and he was able to propound such fantastic thoughts and wisdom that nobody else was able to do it. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, because there was something in him which was alive in spite of all the parts of his body having been crippled. Okay, so that actually shows the reality of that supreme consciousness in us, and everything else being just instruments for us, for the supreme consciousness to express itself. Okay, so then, and I also talked about the Shakti part that will be part of part 4. And book recommendations, actually, there was a question last time. I said last time that Sacred Supreme, Kashmiri Shaivism, the Sacred Supreme, by Lakshmanju Academy was a good book to start. But I think that Tantra illuminated the philosophy, history, and practice of timeless tradition by Christopher Wallace is actually a better book to me. It was, for me, it was easier and more relevant for future current. It's written by Christopher Wallace, who's a Western educated person. And, it appealed to me a lot more because most of us are also Western educated. We have hardly any knowledge about Eastern philosophy. We have grown and nurtured in Western philosophy. So that book actually meant it was much more easy for me to relate to the Tantra Illuminated. So that's all. Okay, so with that, I want to actually go to the next session, which is I wanted to kind of share with you that in October 1st to October 12th, there was
Vijay
a
ji, if I
Kashmir.
may interrupt,
Yes,
there is a
sure.
request to see if you can hide the control panel. अगर तो ये control shift H करियो,
Control
Alt-
shift.
control alt shift H. I think it should hide.
Okay, H.
Control alt
Okay, go.
shift H.
Go.
I think so. There is a bar in the middle. I don't know if that is from.
Siti,
Okay,
go.
good. Thank you.
Go.
You're good.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Vijay, just a reminder, we're at 10:42 right now.
Yes. I realized that, and I did that consciously. I hope people are able to relate to my thinking that this part was important. Answering these questions was important, and to establish that relevance for the future. And but now I'm going to go into the next phase, which is showing you Kashmir. Okay. So there were 54 people who went to this Kashmir retreat, and this was led by Hughes family. This is John Hughes, his wife Denise, and George Barcelar, who's an Australian guy. And this was most of these people, 50 odd people, were Swami Lakshmanju's disciples. And some of these people actually spent more than 10 years in Srinagar in the 70s to 90s. And they were mostly originally, not all, but originally many of them were disciples of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And this was in the 60s, the hippie era. They were transcendental meditation people. And, they became quite advanced. And Maharishi Mahesh Yogi himself told them to go to Kashmir and meet Swami Lakshmanju, because he said that you have reached some level that your quest can only be quenched by Kashmiri Shaivism. So he sent them to Swami Lakshmanju. So these people became disciples. They stayed there for 10 years. They recorded him. They have lots of content where Swami Lakshmanju is kind of explaining various, books, Kashmir Shaivism books, and they have done a fantastic job to preserve and proliferate the wisdom of Kashmir Shaivism across the globe. So over the years, they have been teaching this in the West. They used to be in Los Angeles, but now they have moved to Oregon. So they organized this trip, and about 50 people from US, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Latvia, Brazil. There were 3 people from Brazil, or 2 people from Brazil. And then there were 3 of us from Kashmir Pandits. And so we went there, and it was a fantastic retreat. They started with a very original Kashmiri Havan on Swamiji's Mahasamadhi. It was a 12 hours long Havan, which started before the dawn and ended after dusk. And it was Kashmiri fast with, all that shakarparas and poo and, all kinds of things. And all the Havan rituals were completely Kashmiri, all the chants, which were all Kashmiri. And we had a 4-day retreat where it was academic kind of thing, where they were explaining and discussing key concepts of Kashmir Shaivism. There was a book release, Tantra Loka Chapter 4, written by Acharya Abhinav Gupta. It was released during that time. And then we had visits to Shaivism sites. They gave us mind-blowing stories that most of us, like me, we are Kashmiri Pandits, we have no clue about these. And, we went to Chakrishwar, which is the Parbat, Hari Parbat, Gopi Tirth, which is actually on top of Nishat, which I had never heard about or seen. Swami Ram Ashram in Fateh Kadal, which also I had never seen. And, my Mata Mals are in Fateh Kadal. And I asked my Mamaji, he said he was only about 100 feet away, and he said he doesn't know anything about it. and then Kheer Bhavani and Shankaracharya and Jeshta Devi Mandir and Gupta Ganga, Mangleshwar Barrow, all of these places, they were all related to Kashmir Shaivism. And they told us fantastic stories. And through some pictures that I'm going to show, I will relate some of those stories to you. It was a totally new experience of Srinagar. And then also I actually came from Srinagar to Jammu by road via Jagti by a taxi. And that trip also is completely changed with, no batot, khud and no patni top, nothing. It's all completely changed. So these 3 pictures are showing, of course, the sunset. This is actually my friend at the line of control. This is a walking bridge, for pedestrians only, where people go from this side of LOC to other side. If they were to go to Sharda temple, this is the bridge they would use. And this line is the line between India and Pakistan. And you can go up to that line. You cannot cross that line. So this is an interesting picture. And then I'm kind of showing, I'm going to be showing to you more pictures. As I said, all these people, these 50 odd people coming from all these countries, they are so steeped in Kashmir Shaivism, and they are so impressed by our traditions and our rituals, because they understand it. And they are they actually wanted to go and immerse themselves in the Kashmiri way of life. And this faka they did, this fast that they did, all of us did. They actually had kahwa and then gur artik chot, puri, and this is like all close and all. They were having it. So you can see this. They're all, some of them are 18-year-old girls, and of course many of them are older people. And I just taken a little bit of a video clip and edited it just to make sure that it's not too big a file. So, and then we have this. They're all singing Kashmiri chants, and some of these people, this person, for example, had gone 15 days earlier just to learn these chants from a local person who's still living in Gupta Ganga, and his name is Pranath Kaul. He's quite an enlightened person in Kashmiri Shaivism, so he taught him how to sing Kashmiri style. So, and then people here, somebody, I kind of blocked it because some privacy kind of thing. I don't know, I don't have permission to show this from them. But this guy is a surgeon in California, and I thought that he was one of the best meditators in that whole group. Anyway, I didn't know that people still sit down and eat like we used to do 20 years or 40 years ago. They still do that in Kashmir after the Faka, when we did when we had the Naveed at the end, and then Alu and Dad Chai in Khasu. This is what they do. And, um, and then we had this. So, this is actually chestnut flour. These puris that are made, these are chestnut flour puris. This is the only kind of thing that is allowed during the fast. And then there was a book launch, Tantra Loka Chapter 4. This is being launched by John Hughes, and this is George. And they were teaching us concepts of Prakasha and Vimarsha, which we are going to discuss in part 4. And they explained to us how we do the Havan, why we do it, what we do, and all the. They explained the yantra that we use for Havan, and what that means, different chakras and different concepts. I had absolutely no idea about any of this stuff, by the way. And then those 11 elements I was talking about, some of those 11 elements, 5 elements, they were giving us, a lot of different in-depth kind of study, 4 days of retreat. This is what they did. And then we went to this ashram, Swami Ramji's ashram, and we went to Shankarpal, where the first Kashmir Shaivism book was conceived, Shiva Sutra. It was conceived there, and so in this Swami Swami Ram's ashram, he told us the story of how actually it was not 1997, it was 1897. In 1897, Vivekananda apparently went to Kashmir. This was a few years after his famous speech in Chicago, where he became a world celebrity. So after all that fame, he went back to India, and then soon after that he went to Kashmir. And in this building, which was constructed in 1860 or something, and given to Swami Ram, who was a Kashmiri Shaivism scholar, and an Acharya. Swami Vivekananda was told to go and visit that guy, that Swami Ram. And when he went there, he saw that Swami Ram, along with all the Kashmiri Pandits sitting there, were chanting this Bhairav Stotra written by Abhinav Gupta. And, so he stood at the door and he's listening to them. And he got completely tranced in that stotra, and he was a scholar of Sanskrit, so obviously he understood everything that was being said by Abhinav Gupta in that stotra. And he, at the end, he spontaneously added one stotra to it. This is in 1897, and right after that, Swami Ram added one more, and then George is telling us this story, and he's saying, and did you? He asked people, these 50 people who were sitting there. He asked them, did you realize that yesterday when we were doing the Mahasamadhi, we were singing these extra stanzas that we normally don't sing because that's not in the original Stotra, and everybody was nodding their head. Yeah, we noticed that. So, and here I am, a Kashmiri Pandit who had absolutely no clue about what he's talking about. I did not know about Stotra. I did not know those stanzas, extra stanzas, but these people, they sing that and discuss that every Sunday, in all these their old individual countries. And so anyway, this was one of the sample of stories that I wanted to kind of tell you. Then he also talked about another story, which was not 1897, it was 1997, after the Exodus. All Kashmiri Pandits are gone. And it was a story about a terrorist who was running away, and he was running away from the army, and he actually ended up entering this ashram, and which is still being maintained. And somehow that fellow found some miraculous energy there in that house, in that ashram, that the army was not able to catch him. And he told all his, terrorist disciples that this building will never be touched. Don't touch this building. This will always stay there. And that's why it's still there. It's right in the middle of the, deepest downtown Kashmir, which is completely surrounded by inimical kind of forces, but it's still there. And anyway, so I wanted to kind of share that story. And then I wanted to share also this one. This is on Shankar Pal. So the reason why I wanted to kind of share this with you is that, because of the there's a what's it called, a species of deer called hangul, which is an endangered species. And this forest near Harvan is a protected zone for hangul. So they would not let people go there, and this whole group of 50 were supposed to go there, and they were not able to. And these people said, hey, the only reason we came to Kashmir after this 40 years of study is we wanted to be on that rock where Kashmiri Shaivism was born. And we wanted to meditate on that. And they were not allowed to go. And somehow I managed to kind of find some connections over there, use my Kashmiri sources to get them to go there. And they still are kind of indebted to me. They're saying, they are in touch with me even last week, and they basically went and they chanted these mantras there. Obviously, I had no clue about all of this, but Shankar Pal they are sitting on Shankar Pal, which is in that Dachigam thing. Apparently, even Indira Gandhi used to go there, and she used to meditate on this also. But lots of people in Kashmir do not know anything about this Shankar Pal. So before I close today, because I don't know, we don't have enough time. I want to actually talk about this. So we went to Chakrishwar. Chakrishwar is Hari Parbat, on Hari Parbat, and in that there's a shila there. There's a rock there which is smeared by this saffron paint, cinder, and I had no clue that actually there was a Sri Chakra here ingrained in this. And this Sri Chakra is actually explained on the side of the temple, which also I had not noticed really. So I was able to first read this, and apparently, this Shankaracharya, when he went to Kashmir, he went with his Advaita philosophy and with Shiva as the supreme being and all that stuff. So went with his philosophy, and he was actually converted to Shaktism, the whole power of Shakti in Kashmir by Kashmiri woman. And he apparently he got this Saundarya Lahari. He conceived Saundarya Lahari, which is actually a very important part of southern India's ethos today. That this Saundarya Lahari was actually conceived at this place in Hari Parbat. And George actually told a story about how that happened. And I went back and looked at Wikipedia, and I found that that was true. And this link actually explains it. That Shankara visited Kashmir, which was one of the greatest centers of learning. Kashmir was the seat of Shaivism and all. Scholars believe that Shankara composed Saundari Lahari in Kashmir. So this is what the story. I had no idea that this was the case. And by the way, this Shri Chakra is uh, is everywhere. If you look at it,
yeah.
yes.
Sorry, Vijayji, we are at on time here at 11. It's 11 Pacific right now.
Correct.
So
let me just give an assignment, and then after I'll just give me 2 more minutes. Is it
so
okay?
we also while you are bringing something up, we just had to run a quick poll today. So why don't we just run a poll, and then we can do your assignment and the
Sure.
Okay, so let me just launch this poll for a minute. Okay, here I have launched the poll. If you could please answer this, because this program, we also want our Kashmiri Pandit youth to be involved, and because it's also futuristic. Because this information is given from a future perspective also. Therefore, we'd like to know more about this. So we'll give it a few more seconds, and then okay. So I think we'll end the poll now.
Do you want to spend?
Yeah, I will share the results of the poll. I try to share the results of the poll. So about 17 people have answered it, and 3 members said that they are youth, and then about 15 out of the 16 people have said that they find this detailed explanation format very helpful. So I think, Vijayji, this detailed explanation that you did today was found very helpful by the people who responded to the poll, and 3 members out of these are from our youth. Thank you so much for answering the poll. Okay.
And it would be great if we are able to, because these are recorded also, and if we are able to expose more youth to this, then our objective would be fulfilled, because that's what our objective is. Anyway, so I wanted to kind of say that I found this Sri Chakra not only in Hari Parbat here and all these explanations which I had not seen before. I went to once I had heard about this before. I also went to Bali, and there, in Anand Ashram in Ubud in Bali, I found the same thing, the same pictures there. And
so
yes.
Sorry, because we also have a question now. Since it's overtime, I just want to make sure that we address the question before we go into additional content. Is that okay?
Yeah, I can write down the question, and I may not be able to answer that today because we don't have that time, but we'll add to the FAQs and we'll cover it next time. But tell me what
So
the
the
question
question
is.
that the Asha Kolji has asked a question, and she's asking why and how did Shaivism become the dominant philosophy in Kashmir? Most religions in India have Vaishnava and Shakta traditions too. Was there ever a Vaishnava tradition in Kashmir?
Yes, actually, so let me just give a quick
Mhm.
answer to that. So, in Kashmir, it has actually been a seesaw kind of a thing. There was a period when Kashmir Shaivism was not dominant. It was Buddhism which was actually dominant in the early, in the first century to fourth century or fifth century, Kanishka's time. And after that, because of Kashmir Shaivism and their ability to win the debates and discussions, they were able to convert people to this thinking. And Shaktaism is a very integral part of Shaivism, so it's not different. Shakta is actually the crux of Kashmir Shaivism, and that has spread to rest of the world, and even even the the Vishnuites, even that Ramayana and Mahabharata has also been very strong in Kashmir, but it has got a Shaivite tinge to it, in my view. It has got a Shaivite tinge to it. And, for example, Acharya Abhinav Gupta, one of the first works he did was actually Bhagavad Gita. He wrote the interpretation of Bhagavad Gita according to Kashmir Shaivism. So it's not a this versus that. It's just that concepts have been changed so that Shaivism actually encapsulates both Vaishnavism as well as Shaivism, and Shaktaism is all part of it. And Abhinav Gupta really did one integration. I'm going to cover that in the historical session, which is next. So he basically integrated the entire thing and made one single whole. So it's not that this is different. In fact, this morning I was reading something about Kashmir or Kashmiri Ramayana, and this guy, what's his name, Premnath from Anantnag area, who was actually mercilessly killed in 1990. A great scholar. He was a Vaishnavite, and I was reading about him this morning. So Vaishnavism is there kicking alive. In fact, today also there's a temple on River Jhelum, which is actually being run by ISKCON. So it's very much alive there, but it was integrated into Kashmir Shaivism. But I will add that to the FAQs.
Do you want to talk about what will the next one? What's
Yeah,
being
so
covered?
I wanted to kind of just show you quickly that this Sri Yantra, I understand that Sri Yantra, this part, the center part of this, which I was showing on the previous picture here, this one, is the origin of our Dejhor, I think. And there are some links here. Om Swami has explained the Sri Yantra, and he actually talks about this Ashtahar. And we talked about Athor, and this 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 8 triangles here, Ashtahar, and so there is a relationship between our Dejhor and this center part of this. And I don't want to talk about this, but I do want to talk about this one here. Oregon, there was a mysterious thing that happened in the 1997 or that 1990 time frame, where they found, from a Air Force plane, they found this strange thing here, a structure, and it was Sri Chakra, you know, and they were, and I read about it, and it was a mysterious thing, and some people call it a UFO, or sometimes had to come and done this. It was very mysterious, and in 2017, they finally found out what it was. And it was actually something that had been actually created by some of these people, these Western followers of Hinduism, uh, who were mostly in Fairfield, Iowa. And they had actually gone and done it. And there's a documentary, the Sri Yantra, there's a trailer 2022, and then there's a Sri Yantra Oregon Desert Mystery. is a full movie, which is 1 hour long, about that Sri Yantra story. What happened in that Oregon desert that kind of made this thing. So I would request you to, because obviously it's a 1 hour long thing, I would request you to go and listen to that. It's a very interesting documentary about how they were kind of wondering what happened. How did this come about here? Who made it? And they were all thinking about this UFO and extraterrestrial beings have come and done this and stuff like that. So I just wanted to give that assignment before we go to the next lecture. So I hope, by the way, I also want to kind of tell you about this Panchastui here. And there is a song that we have been all hearing in Kashmir this is Panchastudi, and this is also related to the same Sri Chakra. And I will tell you more about it. I will tell you more about it next time I discuss this. But this, again, I never really thought that this was anything important. But then, when I started digging into this, I found, I did a course on this Panchastui with a lady in Carmel, California, for 2 weeks, and then I started learning about what this Panchastui is. She did this course. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of tell you about. In the next session, I'll complete the rest of the stories from Kashmir, because I did go to many other places and heard a lot of other stories and made connections to some of the villages that we all have come from and what their heritage is. I'll talk about that next time, because that was supposed to be part of this lecture, and deliberately I pushed out some of the content to the next session. With that, Dilipji, do you want to have any conversation, or are there any other questions?
I don't see any questions in the Q&A. I think there are not, but the content everybody has appreciated. I did share the poll results. People who answered the poll said they all like that extended explanation format. So,
okay.
So thank you very much for attending today. Then we'll call it a close here.
So I would request those 3 people who are from the youngsters group to please pull in more of them, because that has been my aspiration, to bring in the youngsters into this, because this is about future. This is 100th Earth Day, we will not be alive, and I'm trying to tie it to that 100th Earth Day. You all will be here at the stage where we are today. So that's why for those youngsters, I would request them to come and listen to the first, and particularly I think today's session, to really see the relevance for the future. Okay, with that, I guess we can conclude, and thanks a lot for participating in this and asking questions, and please continue to ask questions. We'll use the chat to further discuss and see if there are any other questions or any other comments about it. It's a learning experience for me also. I'm tweaking this whole thing as we go based on the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Namaskar, and we'll see you next time.
Namaskar. Namaskar.